Welcome to the On the Move podcast. My name is Dan Hubbard. I am joined by Frank Matarazzo, the CEO of Fusion Transport. So every week, we're going to come to you and talk to you about different topics within the logistics warehousing industry. And so today, this is podcast number 0, right? I mean, this is the test pilot.
001.
The pilot episode here. So we thought we'd just, make sure that everything sounds good, make sure that you guys can hear us okay, and maybe just touch on a couple things that we'll be talking about in future episodes. Does that sound good?
Sounds great.
So tell me, what's kind of your vision for how this is going to go?
I think that this can be a really good forum for us to talk about what's going on in the business, in the industry, and actually add a bit of a personal touch to our company. So you can get a little specific into, who's on the podcast, what are they doing in the business, what's the personal side of what they have going on. And I think this is a really good forum to do that.
Yeah, I agree. We have a lot of different kind of aspects of our business that I think are very interesting in their own right. And I think that giving people a forum to be able to kind of talk about not only what their longer term vision is for our business, but for some of the day-to-day struggles that they're going through and, some roadblocks that they're hitting and their solutions that they came to kind of get around those things. I think probably a lot of people that are also in the industry are facing similar challenges, right? So I think that, kind of getting that message out there, getting, just kind of, some thoughts on different things that are going on in the industry would be helpful for not only our internal people, but for people in the industry.
So let's get started. Let's go like round robin. I'll ask a question. You can ask a question. We'll try to dial in,
Sure.
What the right format here is, and we'll keep the topics pretty general, and we'll see where it goes. Okay, Dan. So why don't you tell everybody how long you've been at Fusion and actually how you found Fusion?
Yeah. So I've been with Fusion since September of 2021, so coming up on 2 years, which I can't believe. That goes really fast. Fusion found me, believe it or not.
I do believe that.
So, I was employed in a similar industry, and I wasn't really looking, just kind of casually seeing what was out there. I'd been with my previous company for probably about 3 years, and I got a LinkedIn message from Frank's sister, actually, which I didn't know was Frank's sister at the time. I didn't know who Frank was at the time, frankly. And she messaged me and said, "Hey, I got this opportunity. I think you might be a good fit for it." And so it's like, "Yeah, sounds great. Let's talk about it." So we talked on the phone, and we hit it off. And she's great. We've had conversations even long after that, but. She kind of casually mentioned that, I have a good relationship with the CEO, so I'll send him your resume. And I said, "Oh, that's great. I got a date with the CEO." And then, I talked with Frank, kind of put 2 and 2 together, that the last names were the same, and then said, "Oh, all right." So she never mentioned that you were related. Obviously, you're siblings. But yeah, it's been a wild ride the last 2 years. I mean, I've learned a ton. I've grown a lot, I think, as an HR professional and as someone who's trying to help you in any way I can to make this business successful. It's always something new at Fusion. I mean, it really is. Like, if you told me a week ago that I'd be on a podcast right now, I'd say, like, I don't think that's probably going to happen, but we'll see.
So what's funny is, I always try to figure out how, especially my sisters, 2 of which have worked in the business, describe the business.
Yeah.
So, like, what did she describe the business as? How did she describe me? How did she describe the role? Like, I love hearing these things because sometimes they're accurate, but other times they're so far off.
Something that's really great about Adrian is that I don't think she tried to sugarcoat anything. I think she said it's fast paced. It's kind of controlled chaos in a way. And it's just, you got to be on your toes 24/7 because there's always stuff going on. There's a lot of change, and there's a lot of growth at the time too. I don't know if you remember the first year I was here, I think we added like 200 employees. So, I mean, it was just, kind of a breakneck speed. And, she was very honest about that, but that was part of what attracted me to the business too, is that it was, just growing so fast, and it was evolving and changing. And she'd mentioned that, you're a laid back person, which I, agree with, but I also think that you have a really strong vision for kind of what shape you want this business to take on. And, I think, that's kind of, really what's attracted me to this place even today.
So when Adrian worked in the business, it was actually being run by my father and was significantly smaller. As you mentioned, we hired about 200 employees in 2021, 2022.
Between like September of 21 and 22, I think it was like a little bit over 200 people.
Yeah, so the business evolves, it changes, the roles change. Obviously, the people working within the business change a bit. So it's always interesting to see, when she's out there helping doing a professional search, how she's describing the business, because the last time she was here, we probably had 25 employees total.
Yeah, I mean, so just to put it into perspective, when I joined, I think we had 160 employees, and at last check, I think we have about 400 now. So, that's pretty significant growth. I mean, we've over doubled, and that's not including all of the temps and other people that we have to manage on a day-to-day basis as well, too. So, it's definitely changed a lot. But like I said, I think Adrian was very honest and open about kind of what the business looked like and where it was going, which I appreciated for sure. So I have a question for you.
Fire away.
All right. So as a first-time CEO, some of the challenges, some of the things that you never in a million years expected that you'd be dealing with, it's got to be overwhelming. I mean, you're getting probably questions from every department every day about different things, some things that you probably feel as though other people should just kind of deal with and not put on your plate. Some things that, I can't believe this wasn't brought to my attention sooner, right? So like, how do you kind of balance all of that chaos coming at you on a day-to-day basis?
That's a good question. I'm not sure it's a question we can actually get all the way into here.
Yeah, sure.
Being a first-time CEO is especially in this industry and in this, corporate structure, is it's challenging. You got to remember, this isn't just a single operating entity that has grown organically through a period of time. We were a company that was newly formed June 6, 2019, with two legacy operating companies being put together. So you immediately had a merger and doubled the size of the business overnight.
Sure.
So you're taking two different operating entities, putting them together. Sorry. Yep. Mental note.
There you go.
Actual note.
Silence your phones.
Put your phones away. Right? Because you're going to get a phone call. Anyway, so being a CEO, I've told people this, like, very confident coming into the role.
Well, you've had a lot of experience in the business prior to stepping into the CEO role.
I was confident coming in, and I was confident that I could do it.
Yeah.
Looking back now, I was totally unprepared.
Yeah.
Like totally unprepared to understand exactly what the role was going to be.
So what would you say to yourself 5 or 6 years ago prior to stepping into the position? And you have all the confidence in the world, and then you step into the position. Like, what would be the first thing that you would tell your former self? Like, hey, watch out for this, or like, you should really read up on XYZ, whatever the case is.
So for me, that moment came. I started to read a lot of different books and listen to some podcasts, listen to some books on tape, just because like when I'm traveling and doing things, it's always easy for me to throw something on in the car, in headphones, on the plane, or do whatever. So it's just an easy way for me to consume information. Read Gary Keller's book, The One Thing, and I was just like, this is it. Like, this is totally what's going on here. And what the one thing is what he's basically saying is, if you're going to run anything, like, you need to have a good team that understands what the objective is, what the goal is, and is totally aligned to that. And if you don't have that, you just have all these individual contributors out there sitting in roles, but nobody knows where you're going.
Yeah.
So for me, it was, remember, no CFO, no CTO, no HR person, a controller, and that's between the two operating companies.
Yeah, that's wild. Looking back on that,
nothing.
and that wasn't even that long ago. That was 2 years ago.
I'm totally unprepared. I was coming in and saying, yep, we're going to do this. We're going to put these businesses together. We're going to grow this thing like crazy. Like, we're ready to go. Looking back on that, I was like, we didn't have anything we needed. Nothing. We had no infrastructure, corporate infrastructure. Now, that doesn't necessarily answer your question. I was unprepared because I didn't know what I needed. So the first thing you need to know is like, what do I have? What don't I have?
Yeah.
And then how do I get what I have? Can I get what I have? How fast can I get it?
Right.
How long is it going to take me to get there? When I get like the team in place, who I think is the right team, maybe they're not.
Right.
So there's all of these things that you need to work through when being a CEO. And then there's the other things that most people believe is the real task of a CEO, but in most cases is not. Like, hey, do you understand your profitability, your numbers, like what's going on? Super important. You need to know like the back of your hand. You need to review it all the time. You need to know exactly what's going on. But the majority of the role is working with the people.
Yeah, I agree with that completely.
Aligning the team, making sure everyone's moving in the right direction, that their numbers are where they're supposed to be. Yeah, it changes every day.
I think you touched on something really interesting there, and just the idea of like being able to be okay with the fact that like you don't know what you don't know, right? I think that's something that a lot of people probably struggle with, especially in leadership roles, where a lot of people try to take on a little bit of everything. And do you think that it was challenging for you to kind of kind of relinquish some of that and say to the people that you've empowered in some of these positions, like, I put you in this position because I don't know the things that you're an expert at. So like, tell me what I don't know, tell me what I need to know, and like, try to inform me as best you can so that I can make a decision for the business.
Yeah. So what you wind up doing, or what I wound up doing, is saying like, I know this aspect of the business, but I'm sure I can find somebody that knows it better than I do.
Yeah.
Right. So the example is, I talked to Russ Bowen in March 2020, maybe early 2020. I'm going to say January, February, March, first quarter 2020, and was actually going to hire him. And I was doing a lot of the management of that team, the dispatch team. We call them the dispatch team, but I was doing most of the management. I was doing most of the financial tracking of it, the KPI reporting.
Which is crazy, by the way.
But that's what I mean. We had no infrastructure, right?
Great.
Think about this. We closed this business started June 6, 2019. We ran for 9 months, and then we ran right into COVID.
Right.
Which changed the landscape of everything.
Sure. Yeah,
everything
absolutely.
Changed.
Right.
Everything.
Yeah, for sure.
I was calling warehouses to see like, do we have enough employees to open today? Can we process orders? Right. So like
was the answer ever no?
Yeah, it was like we have
That's like
10
unfathomable
people
now. Wow.
and it's like, okay, we have 10 people, like we're going to ship today. Like that's what we're going to do. Or we're just going to pick orders today because it's that.
You just have to make do with what you got, right?
You just do whatever you can. But, I think I was saying that the business changed very quickly. And, one of the first things I realized is like, I can't keep doing the day-to-day management of just this group of people.
Right.
Like even that is becoming too difficult.
Sure.
So met Adrian, also found Russ.
Yeah.
Spoke to him, and the business wasn't growing that quickly yet. So I knew this is somebody that could do the job better than I could.
Mm-hmm.
So wanted to bring him in, but it was just too early. The business wasn't large enough yet. There weren't enough transactions yet, but I knew
when you say
eventually it
that,
was the
like,
right
do you
decision.
just think he would be like bored in the role, or it just wouldn't be
I thought
like
he'd be
enough for him to
bored.
sink his
I
teeth
think
into?
he would get in here and be like, this business is too small. And this goes for, you're always trying to, same thing with like any role. When
Right.
you're hiring, one you're kind of trying to figure out is, have you run a $1 billion corporation and have 5 people that report to you, or were you running a $5 million organization? You were wearing 3 different hats.
Sure.
It's, I think it's what you're experiencing now in HR. When you had 100 people over the course of 12 months or 200 people over 12 months, like your role, your traditional role, not the podcast host, totally changes.
It does.
Right?
Yeah,
It changes, and you need more people. So, one of the things that, again, for me was like the biggest number one thing I realized is like, I can't do the day-to-day managerial things. Like I need to trust that the person in that role understands what the end goal is, where we want to be, what the mission is, and I need to go let them make those day-to-day decisions that align to the ultimate goal.
Yeah. So just like I've experienced, as the business continues to grow and grow and grow, you try to still be all things to all people. And you quickly realize that the more you try to do that, the more stuff starts to fall between the cracks, and the more that like everything else kind of suffers, right? You have to kind of
you can't do it.
let people help you, or else there's just no way. I mean, the what you're capable of doing with 100 employees is not at all what you're capable of doing with 400. I mean, you just can't spend the time that you need to with every single inquiry or question or whatever they have. You just can't do it.
You can't, but you can also, you need to empower your team. And that stuff will never go away. Like I got a call on Sunday.
Yeah.
From like one of our operators, and he's just like, somebody left the door of the warehouse open. It's been open all weekend.
They called you?
Yeah. That's cool. Like I want to know.
No, totally. But like there's someone else that should be calling for that kind of thing.
Yeah. But that, like we have a relationship. He's like, just want to tell you, like, this is going on, man.
Right.
Like, you fix it? Yeah, it's good. Cool.
Yeah. Good. I mean, one less thing to deal with, right?
Yeah, it made it a non-factor. Like, I don't have to deal with it. He fixed it.
Right.
Like, dude, this is going on. I fixed it. Like, just keep it on your radar. Like, you need whoever you got to talk to, just let them know. I was like, yep, done. But they'll never go away.
Right.
What's good is like, I'm not the person that's finding it anymore. I'm not the one that has to fix it. It's just those things are happening naturally,
right,
which is good.
What do you think is the part about your role that you enjoy the most? Like, what kind of motivates you? What inspires you to keep doing what you're doing every day? Because obviously, I mean, this is, like you said, I mean, this is a role that doesn't sleep, right? I mean, it's a 24-hour business. There's a 7-day-a-week business. I mean, I'm sure you're getting calls and emails at all hours of the day, every day.
Yeah, there's a lot that's very rewarding, and there's a lot that will keep you up at night. Like, it's just, that's the way it is. The thing there's kind of two aspects of that I enjoy and that I like. The first is when the business is doing well, and you can see like, hey, we're going to tweak this, and like, we're going to really try to dial in this piece of the business in it, and you do it in it, and it works, and you can see the impact of it.
Yeah.
You're like, okay, that's cool. Like, we said we're going to go do this, we did it, and like, look at that outcome.
Right.
And that's more like, you can see it financially, you can see it operationally. Like, that's cool. The other aspect I like is when, is the personal aspect where you have somebody say like, X, Y, and Z are going on. Like, I got all this stuff, these problems, like, I'm trying to figure these things out. And it's not all the time, but if you can say like, oh, I know what to do. Like, here, like, we're going to do this. Like, we're going to make these changes.
Couple changes, right?
Couple things. Like, nothing crazy. Like, we're not going to totally change what you're doing, but like, we'll change these things. And they're just like, oh my God, my life is like 10 times better. I'm like, why didn't you tell me it was this bad? Like, you should have just told me. Like, I'm sorry I didn't see it, but right. Like, with 400 employees, I don't see all that stuff. You can't.
Yeah. I mean, I find you, and look, this isn't me blowing smoke up your butt. I don't know what I can say on a podcast or not, but like, I do find you to be very approachable, and I think that everyone out there would tell you the same thing. That's right. Good. And there's not a lot of CEOs, I think, that you feel comfortable just kind of walking into, their office and, saying what kind of problem that they have, right? Because I think a lot of the time people in upper management, like, they have their own stuff to deal with, right? So a lot of times people will think like, well, he doesn't have time for my problem. I do think that a strength of yours as a leader is that you have always been very good at taking the time and kind of putting your own stuff to the side and saying, okay, what's your problem? Come sit, like, let's talk about it. Let's talk it through, whether it be a work or personal related problem, right? I think you've been really good about that kind of thing. And I think that's important, right? I mean, no, seriously. I mean, I think that makes people feel, not only like, you're taking the time to listen to them and value their problems, but it also makes them feel like, hey, if the CEO of the company can make time for me, then like, that means that maybe I'm in the right spot here, right? Like, people actually are valuing what I'm doing here. I'm making a real contribution to the organization. I think that's pretty big.
Well, thank you.
Of course.
All right, good. I think we're going to call that a wrap for the first one, and we'll start to edit.
So what I would love to do is, for the next one, prepare like a couple topics that we can kind of maybe dive a little bit deeper into. And maybe take some questions from folks, or whatever you want to do. We'll talk about it.
I like it. Add another guest, do some questions,
Absolutely.
Q&A stuff.
Absolutely.
All right, good.
All right.